put an offer for $735,000 and they accepted it. And
Holy smokes.
yeah. And we were at 2.6 million last February. And we believe just the real estate is worth well over 3 million. It just as it is, like it's in immaculate condition. And we are picking it up for 735,000. It's unbelievable.
Welcome to the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Welcome back to today's episode of the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cameron, and today we are thrilled to have Brian Fay joining us. Brian, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me, Charlie. It's good to be here.
It's a good thing we're on before it gets too hot with your AC out this morning.
Yes.
Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, Brian, give our listeners a brief introduction to you and where you're at right now in your whole journey before we jump back in time to where it all started.
Okay. Yeah. Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly. And I moved to South Florida about 15 years ago, and I'm located in Broward County in an area called Weston. And my journey all started really in construction. And I have a construction company down here called Florida Palm Construction that I run with my wife, Ileana. And it all started with me doing a lot of the hands-on work. I'm a licensed general contractor and a licensed plumbing contractor. And so it's a lot of kitchens and bathrooms, swinging the hammer, doing the remodeling myself. And since then, thank God, it's really grown into all project management and site superintendent work, so site supervision. And through that journey, I saw a lot of business expansion, a lot of real estate investing going on. And that's where the wheels really started to turn. And I gained a lot of interest. I must have listened to thousands of podcasts, read every possible real estate book there is, just to really dive in and learn as much as I could. And then fast forward today, I've been blessed to I currently own 8 senior living communities. I close on one today in Savannah, Georgia, memory care there, a 35 unit memory care. I'm about to close on another one in Preston, Minnesota, and working on some large development projects as well that we can dig into a little bit as we progress in our talk today.
Okay, if we heard correctly, 9 and working on the 10th assisted living community, as well as, I believe, over 300 units of multifamily. And is it correct, another 1,000 units in development?
That is correct.
Okay. So this is a little bit different from our usual episodes because Brian has done a ton of GroundUp development and in bigger acquisitions. So it'll be really interesting to learn how he's been able to do that as just a daily human being. A lot of us don't think it's possible. We were talking about this before the call. I don't know how you did that. So I think it'd be super interesting to dig into that. What was the first investment opportunity you had? So you were doing the contractor gig, you had Florida Palm Construction, you were working your butt off. And at what point did you get into an investment property and what was that?
Yeah. So, my very first deal I was a general partner on a multifamily acquisition, and it was not in the greatest market, but I was just excited to be a part of the team. They brought me on in a syndication where I was brought on as an investor relations role and as a general partner. So raising capital and then keeping the investors up to date as the project progresses. And that deal I spent a ton of time on I recorded everything. I reached out to 289 different investors, and I only raised $50,000. So it was
Wow.
pretty much when I truly believed I was going to be able to raise 1 million. But I like to start with that story because through that journey, I was able to find the money. And how I've been able to really get into as many deals as I have is by focusing on finding the capital and then figuring out what the capital wants and working backwards. And my very next deal, I was able to organize a joint venture where we had to raise $11.2 million to close on a 312 multifamily in Gainesville, Florida. And through my seminar, we'll call it, for my first deal, I was able to bring two of the four investors together to close on this Gainesville property. And that's where it really started to click for me as far as how to structure deals, how to use the power of syndication to really close on larger assets that you normally wouldn't be able to close on with your own capital. And we do that through a 506c syndication where we're raising capital from accredited investors. And we're able to use their capital for the down payment, any reserves we need, any CapEx remodeling, whatever capital we need for a successful project to follow through with the business plan. We'll use some of our own capital, but a majority from our investors. And through that, we've been able to scale pretty quickly. And my jump to senior living happened last year around March or April, about a year now. I'm looking at the date, and I looked at a ton of different multifamily deals, and none of them penciled. The interest rates were too high, the assets were too expensive. And then all of a sudden, some senior living deals started falling in my lap, and the math actually worked. So we were like, so that's where I took a drastic transition into senior living and senior living acquisitions.
Yeah,
And
we totally agree. Like we looked at pretty much every space out there is extremely hard right now. Higher interest rates and floating rates and all this crazy stuff is going on right now, and compressed cap rates. It's hard, and multifamily's hard. We've seen a lot of operators, maybe ones with less experience, fail. So a lot of crazy stuff going on. But then, that's the same kind of initial reason we started looking at it was, oh, wait, the maths, which is cool. And then when you compare it, the other piece that we really loved is, okay, I've been in short-term rentals. I've been in small multifamily, kind of like B or C class. And it's okay, there's not a ton of pride and ownership in owning multifamily and housing people. I guess that's okay. A lot of the pride and ownership that investors like to tout is number of units, right? But then short-term rentals got into that, and it was like, oh, these are cool. They're themed. Ooh, look at this. This is cool, right? But then the guests suck, and it's terrible. But then, okay, now we can find a profitable niche where we're also fulfilling, right? We're serving seniors and their families, and they're serving a whole bunch of people. So you get both sides of it, which I think is so cool. But I want to go back and jump back to your story a little bit. Is it correct that, okay, failed at the first money raise and then raised a whole bunch of money for an $11 million opportunity? Tell me, what was it that allowed you to do that? What was the lesson learned there?
yeah, I'd say there was a lot of lessons learned. For the biggest thing is, like I mentioned, I focused a lot more on finding the money first and working backwards. And then once I came across what they were looking for, then presented it to them. And it's not a one time, oh, I'm going to reach out to this person and they're going to invest with me in my deal. It's very much a relationship thing. They have to know and trust you. I've done a lot of traveling all over to meet with investors, even if I have to take a 3-hour flight to meet someone for coffee. These are your investors. These are your people. They are the reason you're able to get the deals done. Just treating them with the utmost respect and value you can, and super grateful for everything. That goes a long way. And just keeping in contact with them. I heard a big capital raiser where you're planting the seeds, you're watering the crop, and just keeping in contact with them. I'd say that's the biggest thing. And then we can get into development as well, because the finding of the capital was a big part of that, as far as how I was able to expand very quickly into development, to where we were able to team up with a modular construction company that has committed to all the equity for all of our deals.
Wow.
So whatever deals we do with them, they'll bring all the equity for the construction loan.
Whoa.
So that significantly lowers any raise we have to do. We just have to figure out how to joint venture with the landowner or purchase the land. And then they'll be able to come in at that point.
That's huge. How did you establish that relationship?
Yeah. So that was through, it initially came across on Actually. And I am a huge advocate for LinkedIn. If you're a real estate investor and you're not on LinkedIn, you should spend some time on there. And I was very diligent with my metrics, my KPIs, and tracking them every single day. And every single day, I would send out 100 messages on LinkedIn. I would do 5 LinkedIn posts on different real estate pages I was a part of. And I would track everything, and I wouldn't go to sleep until my messages were done. And I had email follow-ups with all the people that responded. And I tracked that diligently. And through doing that, that always brought 6 to 8 video calls per day. And that was my main thing. I wanted 6 to 8 video calls per day, new introductions. Like, it took a lot of time, but I spent a solid 4 or 5 months doing this every single day. And the return on investment for that time has just been significant. And through that, I was able to meet another development partner of mine. Trinity Development Partners is their name. And they had the relationship with the modular construction company. And we really hit it off. And now we're doing 5 different development projects together.
Wow. Wow. Okay. The power of networking, folks. And it doesn't have to be LinkedIn, but I'm with you. It is the easiest way to get in touch with a lot of professionals. But I got started, I went to a local real estate meetup, right? And those people got me in the door. That's how I got my first multifamily, through the connections I made through there. Yeah, the ROI on networking with people is insane. And I know some people, that's all they do. That's their whole thing. And they've got a connection for everything, which is incredible. That's fantastic. It just goes to show, like, there's always a way. And if you're not sure that you can do it, go out there and network. Go out and network some more, and you're going to find a way to do it. We have a lot of folks who are like, I don't think I can develop. I don't think I can raise money. I don't think I can blah, 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 blah. And it's, oh, yes, there's a way. You just haven't spoken to enough people yet. Period. Man, that's awesome. Okay, let's switch gears to senior living a little bit. You have 9 and about to close your 10th senior living community. Is that right?
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay. What's the average bed count on these?
Yeah, average is 35 to 60 units.
Okay.
Nice middle market. Too small for maybe just like a smaller operator, and then, or too large for a smaller operator, and then too small for a big institutional level operator, like that nice middle ground.
And does that allow you the ability to hire management out? Is that what you do?
So what we do is we actually base all of our assets around operations. Operations is the most important thing for good quality care. And we're taking over assets that are in distress and have not great operations. And we're bringing in a much higher level quality of care, and just taking over at that point and turning them around.
And is that your team doing the operations, or do you have a third party you've hired to do that? How does that work?
Yeah, so most of the time when we find a good operator in a specific area, for instance, we found a great operator in Southeast Georgia, the Savannah market, and we found assets for them to manage. So we started with operations first. And once we found a good operator, we brought her in as the operator and we're able to give her equity in the deal and different incentives. And we're making her dream come true. She's worked in operations for 20, 25 years for other people. And now she's able to come in and own her own assets and manage them. So it's a really cool thing. And we did the same thing in Montgomery, Alabama with 4 assets we have there. We found operations there and then based our purchases around those operations. So I think it's very important, like starting with operations first, because you could find the asset, but if you have no one to run it, it really doesn't matter.
Wow, that's super interesting. So, how do you go about finding the right operators?
Yeah, that's a lot of asking senior living brokers, being in different masterminds, like you were talking about there, Charlie, about being in the right room. That goes a long way. And just letting people know everywhere you go, this is what I'm doing. I'm in senior living. I'm looking for a good, solid operator. Do you have any recommendations? And, it's not easy to find a good operator, but when you do, we're hold on to them and they're like, yeah, they're the most important thing for
100%.
sure.
100%. Yeah. If you don't have a good operation, you don't have a good home, and everything's going to go downhill from there. We mentioned this quite a bit, but we see, especially in residential assisted living, there's a line of how many residents you can have before you're cash flow positive. If you're negative, not good, right? And then if you start to cut corners, and we've seen this in multifamily from operators, right? You start to cut corners, and then things just get worse, and it spirals out of control really quickly. When what we really want is to be able to provide extremely good care, pay the staff really well, and that attracts the best residents, right? And so that just makes everything better for multiple reasons. So we see a lot of folks that are like, no, I want to cut people a break and cut corners in ways that just don't make sense. I'm glad to hear that you've been able to find operators early before the deal. And are you focused on a market and you get the operator and then you really drill down? What is your process for? Is it market first? Is it operator first? Is it the money first? Like how do you go about that?
Yeah, I'd say in most cases it's operator first. And then sometimes we'll get a deal across our desk that is worth taking a look at. And before we even put an LOI in, we'll make sure we have a good operator in place that's interested, at least. And in some cases, it's an institutional level operator or like a well-established operator that focuses on senior living. And so it varies by deal, but before we really get under contract, we want to make sure we know who the operator is and we're comfortable with them.
That makes sense. Okay. So when you got your first assisted living property, what were some of the biggest struggles and challenges you had initially? How did you overcome those?
Man, that's a good question, Charlie. It's when you're taking over your first asset and it's in distress, it's not easy. It takes a lot of hands-on work. And for us, the biggest obstacle was we were buying from a really nice lady. She had owned it was actually 3 assets in one deal. She had owned them for 25 years or so. It was very mom and pop to where she didn't even use a computer. Everything was handwritten. She didn't use a computer. Due diligence was very interesting. We had to go there in person and dig through file cabinets and everything. And the biggest obstacle we saw was good employees. And how we overcame that is we brought in different software. One in particular that really got us over the hump was called Workstream. I highly suggest taking a look at that one. It really systematizes everything from finding good employees to onboarding them, the whole process, because there's a process, fingerprinting, the drug screen, everything you have to do for onboarding. It makes it very easy with text message updates and checklists, and they can check it off as they go so you know where they're at in the process. And that software Workstream was very helpful to get us over that hump of finding good employees and then bringing in benefits. That's huge as well. A lot of employees are living for those benefits, those health, dental, maybe a 401k with some sort of matching. If you're able to do that, goes a long way. But that was our biggest struggle, finding good employees for
Interesting.
sure.
Okay. And when you took it over, did the employees have any of those benefits before, or you were the first
Yeah,
to provide them?
no benefits in these locations. It was a rural area of Southeast Georgia, about an hour north of Savannah. In this market, they did not have benefits.
Interesting. So you added those and that allowed your retention to skyrocket?
Yes, and bring on better employees.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Benefits that you highly recommend: medical, dental, 401k, anything else we're missing?
Paid time off goes a long way.
Okay.
Some paid holidays, different things like that. I'd say those are the best benefits.
Do you offer any sort of referral bonuses for bringing on new residents or new staff? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, we did that as well. I didn't even think of that, but thank you for bringing that up, Charlie. We did a $500 bonus at one point if an employee stayed on for longer than 90 days.
Oh,
And that went a long way. We were able to bring on a handful of employees by offering that bonus.
that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, that was pretty, yeah.
Okay,
Very
so
good.
a big struggle we see a lot of assisted living owners have is staying fully occupied. So tell us what lessons after owning now 9 as of today, congratulations, assisted living communities. What have you learned on staying occupied? What are your best practices for that?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is with communities that are in the size of 25 to 60, it's very easy for the executive director to be focused on operations and not so much on sales and marketing. It's very important to make sure the executive director is at least spending half of their time on sales and marketing and half on operations, or having a separate sales manager of some sort, because it has to be a constant flow of people. And there's a huge need for senior living right now and a good quality of care, that once people hear about it and know what you're doing and the type of care you're giving, it starts to flow in pretty smoothly. But getting the word out.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt this episode, but I've got a question for you. Do you want to share in the wealth and incredible returns from the highest demand asset class in real estate without the hassle of doing it all yourself, or at least not yet? Residential assisted living is booming and it's only gaining momentum. That's why we created an investment fund at Open Range Capital, so you can benefit without the heavy lifting. With the silver tsunami upon us, demand for assisted living is far outpacing supply, making this the can't miss opportunity for the next few decades. We provide access to fully vetted investment opportunities that are primed for success and ready to deliver strong passive returns. Don't wait, ride the wave with us. Visit theralroom.com/invest to partner with us on future investment opportunities. Again, that's theralroom.com/invest. We look forward to connecting with you. Now back to the episode.
And just making sure you're focused on that and tracking exactly where you're at. I mean, that goes a long way. We do a weekly tactical meeting where we track very specific metrics, and our occupancy is one of them. And if occupancy dips down for whatever reason, that goes to what we call the IDS list, our issues list, and we discuss it and we work on solving it. And if we have to invest more into marketing or whatever we have to do, we do that, because keeping that occupancy where we need it is very important.
Yeah. What types of marketing do you leverage? Or do you have some that you like more than others or more effective than others?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is really relationships more than anything. It's wonderful sending out your different email blasts and your marketing that way, and keeping your Facebook and your social media up to date. But I'd say we've gotten a majority of our referrals for people just through relationships that our executive directors have. And that goes a long way for sure.
We hear that a lot. Good care, relationships. Those are always the top two. I would add, because I see it a lot, actually have some sort of online presence. Someone needs to be able to find you and know you exist. That's helpful. But yeah, I love that.
Yes. And one of our executive directors, she always focuses on the three-legged stool, she calls it. And we have food and like the actual location as far as like how nice it is and the quality of care. And if you're able to have those three that as part of your three-legged stool, you can really have a successful, well-managed, really nice senior living. So that's what we've done. We make sure we bring in great food and good quality of care along with a nice place to live. And that's been our golden formula. And you cannot forget about the food. The food is super important.
I know that's what I'd be looking for. And so those three components, if you have those three, the rest will take care of itself.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So how did you raise the money for all of these assisted living homes? Is it all syndications as well?
Yes, every single one's been a syndication. And it's all been through relationships, bringing other capital raisers into the deal if we needed to, just really getting the word out to people on what we were doing, and just investors seeing the returns we were able to give, and just the deals in general, being a part of something to give care to seniors when they need it. It's not like your typical investment. You're investing in seniors and their livelihood and how they're living. There's definitely some value in that, but most of it was just through relationships. And if we were coming up a little short on a capital raise, bringing someone else in to help and support that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what about financing? What types of loans did you leverage for the rest of it?
Yes. Yeah, financing's interesting. Every deal is a little different. We have our 4 locations in Montgomery, Alabama, where it was one seller, and we actually did seller financing for that. 100% seller financing. And we negotiated for a significant amount of time, 6-9 months. And we did what we call extreme seller financing, where we negotiated the first location be completely remodeled before we took over. So we were able to do seller financing mixed with a brand new building, completely remodeled. Then once we get done, we have to finance building 2's remodel. And then once we get there, we'll refinance into some sort of bank financing at that point. And then the seller has already agreed to bring in seller financing to finance the remodels of building 3 and 4. So we're using seller financing in that one. That's been very successful, lining that up. The 3 in the area of Claxton, Georgia, that I own, we did a small community bank that worked well. We just had to do all of our banking through them. We were able to get 75% leverage on that, which was great. And so that worked well. And then the one in Savannah that we close on today, that was just through private equity financing. And we were able to do leverage on it. And then they also did a line of credit for $200,000 for like CapEx and different branding that we wanted to do. So our loan amount is actually close to $100,000 more than our purchase price, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so for the listeners out there, a lot of time we'll talk about SBA or we'll talk about a small local bank. But there's so many options out there. The money is there, the funding is there, and the money is there for the rest of it. Brian, did you come out of pocket at all or much on these deals?
Yeah, not much. Maybe a little bit of risk capital, some attorney's fees, different things like that. But for the senior living acquisitions, 95% of it was all investor capital or seller financing.
Okay. If you're listening to this, Brian has bought almost 10 30-plus bed assisted living communities for 5% of his own money or less. Okay. And so we hear it a lot that the financing is the biggest barrier, but man, it's out there. If you went on LinkedIn every single day for 5 months and sent 100 messages, you would find the money. You'd probably find the lenders and you'd be off to the race, and you'd find the brokers and you'd be off to the races. Man, dude, Brian, well done. That is absolutely incredible to hear.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
All right,
Yes.
let's shift gears just a little bit because I know our listeners want to hear a little bit about development. And you had the GC background, so I can see how that happened. But tell us how you went from, okay, I'm a GC and I'm going to do a little development, to it's a 400 unit property you're now developing near Lady Lake. Is that right?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yes, it's a 485 unit. It's a age restricted multifamily. We're doing 55 plus community there. And with my construction experience, I did a decent amount of work for other developers. And it was ever since I did the first one, I thought to myself, I want to be on the other side. I want to be the owner here. I don't want to be the general contractor. I don't want to be the guy getting bossed around and yelled at all the time. All they're worried about is their budget and their time. Those are developers' main clients. Are they sticking to the budget, and are they getting the project done in time? And that really was like a switch for me to where I wanted to jump over onto the other side. And that's what I focused on and did.
Brian, you have a unique background. Do you think anybody can get into development at some level?
I think anyone can. Like any real estate investment, it's really a team sport. And there's a lot of different team members, a lot of different superpowers that can be very beneficial to development. And focusing on one of them and doing that's really all you need. And like we've talked a lot in this podcast, being in the right room at the right time, learning as much as you can, that goes so far. But in development, it's really more about who you know than what you know. And just being around the people that are doing deals, the people that are raising capital, the people that are developing, and you'll learn quick or eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially if you can bring something to the table, maybe you can get your foot in the door. I know when Alex told us about this opportunity, we were like, go do it, go, because he's going to learn, right? And in a way, he's getting paid to learn, right? To help be a part of that opportunity, which is so cool. And now we get to meet, which is so cool, right? We're just expanding our network and we're learning. And man, it's so true. And we talk about this a lot in partnerships. Just find the person that complements your skill set, because you don't have it all. It does seem like you're pretty good at development and money raising, which is a pretty good deal. But some of us might just be good at one. And so then we partner up with someone else and make it happen. And those bigger deals, I don't think there's anybody doing those by themselves. It would be impossible. You have to have partners to be able to build that out.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. And that's another one where we focused a lot on operations and just organizing of the team. And if you're able to just spend that little bit of extra time really organizing the team for a development project, it can be just that much more successful. We focused on the operator. We brought Greystone Communities in. They're a huge operator down here in the South. They have currently over 40,000 units under management. Wow. And they've been doing it a long time. And we work with them. We bring in Core Construction as the GC, and they have a multi-billion-dollar bonding capacity, which means they'll have the insurance to cover the work that needs the teams to do it. And then we bring in our modular construction partner and their architectural team mixed with our civil engineer, and we just get this kind of all-star team all together, and beautiful things happen. And it's really cool to see it all come together.
Yeah. To an entrepreneur, beautiful is the right word, right? You just put together all the right things and then everything is coming together for you, obviously, which is so cool to see. And what a great location, man. Great job on the location as well. Near the villages. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Dang, Brian, this has been incredible. Any last words for folks that are thinking of getting into development or getting into assisted living? What would you say to folks that are on the fence about whether they should jump into this?
Yeah, I could go in a lot of different directions here, Charlie. But what's top of mind for me today is the deal we're closing on in Savannah, Georgia. From the first time I stepped foot in Savannah, I loved that market. And I told myself 2 years ago, I'm going to own real estate here because it's just such an awesome town. And today that dream is coming true. And the lesson learned here is really just tracking deals and keeping the relationship with different brokers. Because this deal, for instance, it's in distress. We're buying it out of bankruptcy. And we first put an offer in at 2.6 million last February. So 13 months ago. And the seller was just like pretty stubborn and was just like, no, we want 2.65 and we're not budging. And they're mean about it. And so we're like, okay, we'll just move on. But we kept in contact with the broker. And in October, it was still on the market. So we're like, okay, we're going to take $1 million off. We're going to offer 1.6 million for this 35 unit memory care in Savannah, Georgia. And we go to put in the offer and the broker says, no, don't do it. This is about to go to auction. And this is how you participate in the auction. So we're like, okay, we're going to do that. And we go and we participate in the auction. And because it was in bankruptcy, they did not market it at all. There was 2 or 3 people that participated and it didn't hit the reserve. So they had the reserve set at 700,000. And through our relationships and our relationship with the broker, we were able to just really stay on this deal and get constantly updated about it. And so right when the auction ended, it didn't hit the reserve. We put an offer for 735,000 and they accepted it. And
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And we were at 2.6 million last February. And we believe just the real estate is worth well over 3 million. Just as it is, like it's in immaculate condition. And we are picking it up for 735,000. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible, Brian.
Yeah.
Wow.
So keep in contact with your brokers. When you find a good broker, to really just do whatever you can to build that relationship, because a good broker can be the difference between getting a deal done and not getting a deal done. Treasure those relationships.
Wow. Yeah. Again, back to relationships. It just is a common theme. Well done on that one. One of my last questions here is, how do you see the industry, the assisted living, senior care industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question, Charlie. I've heard it a lot over the last year. People are calling it the silver tsunami. There's a lot of America getting older right now, and there's a huge need for good quality care. And I think if you're just getting into this asset class and you pursue it over the next 5 or 10 years, I think there's going to be just an increased need. I think it's going to be very hard for us to actually be able to hit the need in America as far as how many units we need for all of our seniors. And I think based off of my experience, it is my favorite asset class for many reasons. And the absorption rate and the amount of units needed over the next 5 to 10 years is astronomical. And we're just not there and we're not prepared. And we're able to bring in a product to help them prepare for it and give seniors a good quality place to live.
Yeah.
So I'm very bullish on senior living right now.
The data is very clear. It's unbelievable. There are not nearly enough units coming online, something like 30,000 a year, which is nothing compared to the current need and the future need, which is absolutely insane. You're right. Very bullish. I think we're going to remain bullish for the next 2 decades. And I'd love to come back in a year and see just where you're at on your journey at that point, because I'm sure you'll have grown significantly more.
Sounds wonderful, Charlie.
So, Brian, I understand you're launching a mastermind. Would you give our listeners just a quick pitch on what that's about and how they can kind of learn more?
Yeah, I've been a part of a handful of masterminds, and there's a lot on flipping houses, wholesaling, apartment syndications, all of that. And there is not a lot on real estate development. And looking into this and how much of a need it is right now, I just decided I was going to start up my own real estate development mastermind, and we're just kicking it off March 28th. And we have a year-long commitment, a year-long agenda. We're going to go through everything from structuring the deals to the construction to the property management behind it, the different asset classes, and it's very structured. The purpose is to keep each other accountable and just build long-term relationships as we do it. And it's actually figure out how to do development, interest rates, and specifically the cost of construction. And being able to bring a product online in 2027, 2028, you're going to be in a really good place because there's not a lot of building going on right now. So we're focusing on that. And I'm very excited to see where that goes and just be a part of it.
That's so awesome to hear. I think there's a ton of masterminds out there on all those other things you mentioned, but you're right. Development is way harder than most of those things, than getting an Airbnb, okay? Or buying a multifamily property. Development's way harder, in my opinion. There's just so many more pieces and parts to it, and approvals and zoning and lots and blah, blah, blah. So I think, man, there's a critical need. So that's awesome. I can't think of a better person to run it. It's super cool. It's called GroundUp Academy. And how can people learn about it or connect with you about it?
Yes, the easiest way is through Instagram. Just look up GroundUp on Instagram. We're just launching our website the next week or two. So it's groundupacademy.com. And I actually might have to check that URL.
Okay, we'll add it to the show notes, whatever the correct URL is.
It's so new that I'm not sure. And then also we're starting to do a handful of TikTok educational videos as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see that take off and blow up. Brian, this has been absolutely awesome. Really glad you could come on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today and share your insights. It's been a great pleasure and a learning experience for us.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raw Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is theralroom.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the Raw Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.